And I've got standing in front of me Nigel Dragon. He's the master baker at the Corfe Castle Village Bakery. He's an employee of one of the finest bakeries in the county, loads of prizes for all sorts of things, cakes and bread, etc. But he's had a little bit of a problem. When he parked his car, where he could legally park it, he paid for parking place.
Wow.
Unfortunately, his ticket fell off, and he got another kind of ticket, which was enforced. And he's had bailiffs arriving at his employer's premises to take equipment which actually belongs to his employer and not him. Right, I'll just hand you over to Nigel now, and he can give you a little bit of a story of what went on. Okay, over to you, Nigel.
Thank you. Yes, we had the bailiff visit, introduced himself as a bailiff and wanted to talk to me, and I said I had no reason to talk to him. He entered the premises and said he would be filming everything that took place because I had been known to make threats in the past. What he meant by that I'm not quite sure about, but I refused to talk to him and he continued to film. And he kept asking questions and I kept saying, I have no comment to make, I don't want to talk to you. And he said to me, with an attitude like that, no wonder you didn't get re-elected to the council. And I said, well, actually I was re-elected to the council. And he said, well, I will soon get you removed from the council. Which quite surprised me because he was filming all this on his camera. I still refused to talk, and he remained in the premises, and he again asked me for 400 and I think it was £29, and said that if I didn't pay within 2 minutes he would call a van and start removing goods from the premises. I informed him that I was only an employee and it was my wife that actually owns the business, and he said he didn't believe me. He carried on remaining in the premises and eventually made a telephone call, whereupon a white van arrived with a gentleman who then entered the premises. He passed the camera to this gentleman and asked him to carry on filming at all times. He then again asked me for the money, otherwise he said they would start removing goods. Customers were still entering the premises and I was introducing all the customers to the bailiff and saying, this gentleman is a bailiff and he has told me that within 2 or 3 minutes he's going to close the business and start removing goods, so if you'd like to hurry up and purchase, please do so. And then he went behind the counter with his clipboard and said that he would start marking goods for removal. My colleague who was working, or 2 of them behind the counter, one of them asked him to leave for the simple reason, she said to him, you're not allowed behind the counter without protective clothing on. He then informed her that he used to be an environmental health officer and that he knows all the rules and regulations.
That sounds rather strange.
Well,
was he able to prove that he had been an environmental health officer?
No, he carried on, no proof. And again, I mean, she said to him that if you were an environmental health officer, you would know the rules and regulations.
See, because it's actually a very serious offence to impersonate an environmental health officer or an environmental health practitioner, or even a past environmental health officer or past environmental health practitioner. It's basically saying you are a brain surgeon, you were a brain surgeon, and so on. It's actually a serious offence. You can be prosecuted. I do believe actually there is a custodial sentence as well that can be, if you're found guilty of it, serious fine as well. Serious offence. But the other thing is, was the owner of the business there?
No, she wasn't.
So she did not give permission?
No, not at all.
I see. And you, as the employee, did you give permission?
No.
No, I see. So they just walked straight in?
Yes.
Did he show you, if he was a certificated bailiff, he must show you a copy of the warrant from the county court, signed by the judge, in ink, not by the clerk. It has to be signed by the district judge. Did he show you anything like that?
I don't remember seeing it. He said he had a warrant, but he did show me his certification, his little badge.
Right,
form. That's
I see. Okay, well, we're going to have to look into this. because firstly they must actually identify themselves, they must actually be able to show you, and you must be allowed to examine the certification. Because I could just go in anywhere and say, look, I'm a certificated bailiff, I work for, oh, what's the name of the firm, you've got it, here we go, Empire Enforcement Limited, and just go away with everything. Yeah, it's basically the same as somebody walking in with a hoodie on or whatever and saying, right, I'm going to take all your goods. They must actually have authority. They must actually also, at this point, have permission to go in. Because if they do what's called a walking examination, so they can actually list everything that's there, that you have to give them permission to do that, and you have to sign that you agree that they're allowed to do that, and you also have to sign to say that you are allowing them to take it away as well. All under warrant, but presumably this didn't occur. And who was this other person? Did he actually identify himself?
No.
He didn't. No. So this guy went in with him and said nothing.
Said nothing, yeah.
Aha, right, we'll look at this. We'll look at this as well. Okay. Right, you can carry on a bit.
What happened then is I realised I had my mobile phone in my back pocket. Because he was still behind the counter where he shouldn't have been, I took out the mobile phone and flicked it open onto camera and took his photograph. I then turned to take a photograph of the other gentleman who was holding the camera at the time. And with that, my phone had gone whack as I took the picture, which drew it to the attention of the bailiff, who then shouted, "What are you doing taking our photograph? We're ex-Marines, we don't want our picture all over the internet."
So they're saying they're ex-Marines as well?
Yes.
Oh, we'll have to look at that too.
And we don't want our picture all over the internet.
There seems to be an awful lot of ex-something, doesn't he?
And as I turned to take the picture, he jumped me from behind to try and snatch the phone out of my hand. Grabbed hold of my wrist, quite hard, from behind. And I did use force to make him...
Right, they're not allowed to do that for a start, because that's an assault. That could actually constitute a robbery, because it's a removal of your property without your permission by force. And of course he has no authority to give that force. That also, if he has walked in to an establishment to actually carry out see what's in there, he's got to do it peacefully. And of course, if he physically hurts you or just even touches you, that is not a peaceful enforcement. Therefore, any subsequent visit that he makes is unlawful. He'll have to start all over again. Now, it could be classified as an aggravated trespass because violence was used to gain access to where you're actually working without the authority of the owner of the business. And of course, presumably you do not have any written authority or any authority from the owner of the business to allow all and sundry in. Perhaps maybe the environmental health officer, if he's coming in, because they always seem to have a right of entry. And of course in the EHO, you're pleased to let in anyway, supposedly.
Yes.
But certainly not the way this character allegedly gained access to the business of Cloth Castle Village Bakery.
Yep.
So he took your mobile phone from you.
No, I still had the mobile phone at that stage.
Yeah.
He was unable to get it from my grasp. By this time, my colleague had phoned a 999 call and phoned for the police.
Right.
Took the police about 15 minutes to arrive. During this time, he'd taken the camera back from his colleague and was fiddling with his camera, which wasn't surprising, I don't suppose. The police arrived and he asked for me to be arrested for alleged assault, thumping him 3 times, he said. And I also asked for him to be arrested for assault. So the police arrested us both and bailed us both on the spot to appear at the Wareham Police Station the following day.
And did he do anything with your mobile phone after he...
Afterwards he still insisted that he had the mobile phone. I asked the police officer if I had to give it to him, and he said, well, to stop a breach of the peace, yes, he would suggest that I gave it to him. But
right. Okay, now with regard again to this arrest, the police officer, the constable, arrested him.
Yes.
For alleged assault.
Yes.
Okay, fine. So we'll have to look into that as well. I wonder if this guy is still a certificated bailiff or if he's been suspended, because it'd be interesting to see if somebody who was arrested for assault is still able to act, inverted commas, as an officer of the court, carrying out his work. If we think about it, if you were a teacher in a school, okay, and you were arrested by the police for alleged maybe paedophilia, do you think you'll be allowed to continue teaching? I think not. No. So we're going to have to go up and we'll find out which court he's certified at, and then we'll go and we'll speak to the court to find out if in fact he can still be continuing work as a certified bailiff. Did the other guy carry out any physical violence?
No, he didn't. The impression we got is that he didn't really want to be there at any time.
Right, okay, fine. And did you get his name?
No, he didn't give a name.
He wouldn't give a name?
No.
Okay. Right, well, thanks very much indeed, Nigel, and we'll go and sort out what's going to go on. Thanks very much indeed. Clear.
Yeah, hello. Could you put me through to membership, please? Right, the query relates to a person called Stuart Marshall, S-T-U-A-R-T, and his surname is Marshall, M-A-R-S-H-A-L-L. He appears to have been passing himself off as an EHO, or EHP, and also as an ex-EHO stroke EHP. I phoned up this morning to find out if you could have a look through the registration files to see if a person by that name has ever been or is now registered with the CIH as being an EHP. Okay, right. Have you got? Can you get back in your in the registration database and tell me if there ever was one in the past probably 10 years? Yeah. Oh, right. Nothing has come up at all. Well, Stuart Marshall. Right. Okay. Right now then, can you tell me what the process is then? Lovely. Thank you very much. No, I'm not Mr. Marshall. I'm the one that the CIH is going to bounce if they don't watch it. Yeah. Okay, lovely. Thanks.
So he's been passing himself off?
He's been passing himself off as an EHP, which is a criminal offence. Okay, lovely. Thanks a lot. Okay, right. Cheers. Bye-bye. Bye. Right. The Chartered Institute of Environmental Health is going to pursue it.
Fantastic.
So it looks as if there could be a prosecution on that. They're going to get they want me to get some statements from Mr. and Mrs. Nigel and Joe and also the employee with the fact that the guy has been passing himself off as a current or a past EHO stroke EHP or registered practitioner in environmental health. And if that is the case, they have the power to actually prosecute. And it's fraud. Just the same way as somebody call themselves a brain surgeon, take your brain out and say, oops, as I said to John. And that was John Butloff, who's the registration officer for the CIH.
Brilliant.
So, thing is, if you are an EHP, if you actually have an awful lot of power. If you're working for a local authority or local health authority or as an EHP, you basically have a constant right of entry as well. You don't need the magistrate's warrant to get in anywhere. You can take away what you want. And if he's using that as a means of gaining access anywhere, he's going to need serious trouble. Serious trouble. Because the professions of the environmental health officer and the medical officer for environmental health or the environmental health practitioner are actually very old professions which actually, believe it or not, are pretty well respected. And the environmental health officers do not use the powers that they actually have unless it's absolutely necessary. They just go and walk in and hammer somebody. And they actually do their prosecuting if they go to court
in their own right. They don't even have to go to the Crown Prosecution Service. They just go in immediately and lay information to a magistrate, and that's it, bang. So somebody who passes himself off as an EHO, or even an ex-EHO, to sort of put the fear into somebody who is working in a shop is a very, very serious thing indeed. Certainly not a professional attitude that one would expect from a bailiff who's working for the Crown after all. The courts. And it's the courts that put people in prison or fine them for breaking the law. And what's this bailiff doing? He's breaking the law.
I'm sorry my call can't be taken. I assume this is Empire Enforcement. I'm running a couple of film units and we're waiting for your visit to Dragon's Bakery in Corfe Castle. You undertook to get back to Dragon's Bakery to give a time when your agent, we assume is your agent, but from what we gather he could well be working on a freelance basis, is going to make the visit. But you've made no call, and it seems curious that an operation such as yours should be working from an answer phone. Thank you. Hello, is that Empire Enforcement? Oh, jolly good, Tom. You were going to come round to Dragon's Bakery today, and he needs us to end the conversation now. Thank you.
In front of witnesses.
Well, the evidence
Yes.
is pretty strong, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Also in front of witnesses, he has actually been passing himself off as an EHO. And this guy is also a certified bailiff. He's acting on behalf of the Crown. Now the Crown and the courts are there to enforce the law. But he is actually breaking the law, in inverted commas, enforcing the law, but he's not entitled. He's acting ultra vires.
Yes.
Because he's not entitled to remove goods,
Sure.
especially those which don't belong to him.
Well, especially he's not entitled to remove goods that to do with trade in a person's livelihood anyway.
That's right. I'm just standing here outside Arena. They are the management agents for an industrial estate, also just behind me. And this is where Empire Enforcement Limited have their, what was described by Arena as their virtual office. They don't actually have an office here as such. What they do is they collect post, sometimes once a week or so, addressed to them at the business centre or the bailiff's office. And the address is to where postal orders or whatever might be sent, or cash is sent. And these guys pick it up once a week.
And as soon as you rip that flimsy shroud of smoke and mirrors down and leave them naked, it's just Tom and Stu out for a bloody rip-off, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, and
You ought to see this.
We're doing it.
We've just had a telephone call from Mr. Jonathan Mayer, who's the head of Legal and Democratic Services at Dorset County Council, who has advised us that Empire Enforcement actually do some work for the car parking enforcement section of Dorset County Council. He has told me that he is going to get in touch with the head of the car parks, he's called parking manager, and discuss the whole sorry affair with him, find out what's going on. We will be expecting a phone call from either Mr. Mayor or Mr. Gledhill, parking manager, fairly shortly to find out what's going to happen. There is obviously some concern at Dorset County Council, having regard to the company reports, etc., which have been submitted by enforcement, the fact that they do not appear to have an office at 9 Nimrod Way, but somewhere else in Ferndown, which I have to say we couldn't find. We just have to see what happens next.
Debt Free TV, in association with GetOutOfDebtFree.org.